Welcome to Zimpapers Television Network. My name is Robert Mkondiwa, and this is Diplomatic Passport, your update show on COVID-19 and of course the new normal that we have seen in the year 2020. Of course, we've gone through a lot of places, a lot of spaces. We talked about the very first casualty that we had with relation to COVID-19. And of course, it's been a roller coaster ride throughout the year. We've gone deep into mines. We've flown with you to foreign nations to see how they were coping with the new normal. And certainly we've had some good times and some absolutely sobering times, because this new normal is a new normal like we've never ever imagined before. Now we're confronted with the absolute last episode of Diplomatic Passport for the year 2020. And what better way to end it than with a diplomat on our show? Of course, it's the twilight to the year, it's the twilight to Diplomatic Passport in this year, and it's also the twilight to that diplomat's service as a diplomat. We're going to be talking to somebody, but before I reveal the person, of course, as per tradition, let us start by taking a look at Zimbabwe's COVID-19 statistics and where we stand as a nation as availed to us by the Ministry of Health and Childcare. So Zimbabwe now has 12,656 confirmed cases of the novel coronavirus, and that includes 330 deaths and 10,259 recoveries, which put the national recovery rate at 83.3%. Now, 1,501 PCR tests were conducted in the last 24 hours and 111 new cases were recorded. Now, these are all local transmission cases, which of course is a sign that we need to stay vigilant. Harare remains the epicenter with 3,513 cases, followed by Bulawayo, which now has 2,954 cases of COVID-19. Now, sadly, a death has been recorded, 4 deaths rather, were recorded in the past 24 hours. Of course, it's Christmas time and we need to remain vigilant because there are greater interactions. Some of you have already gone to your rural homes or various other places to relax, to unwind, but certainly we need not be complacent, because when we're meeting new people and moving to new regions, that's when we move with the virus, or of course with whatever virus is. So we need to be careful whether you're in a malaria prone zone or whatsoever. You need to be vigilant. Now, I did talk about a special guest that I have today. Now, I will introduce my guest. My guest is Louis Matshwenyeho Fisher, the outgoing Botswana ambassador to Zimbabwe. Now, he was a commander of the Botswana Defence Forces, BDF, from 1998 to 2006, and he is the recipient of the Legion d'Honneur and a Presidential Order of Honor. He was born in the district of Tsao in Gamiland district, which now is a part of the Northwest district. Now, Ambassador Fisher received his primary education in Maun at the Moremi III Primary School and his secondary education at Mataspe College in Francistown, which of course is a Catholic institution. He then attended the University of Botswana and graduated in 1978 with a Bachelor of Arts degree in Political Science. He joined the BDF in, of course, that same year. He also then assumed command of the Botswana Defence Forces, the BDF, in 1998, succeeding Seretse Ian Khama, son of ex-President Sir Seretse Khama, who of course was the paramount chief of the Bangwato tribe and the former president of Botswana. He retired on the 1st of October 2006 before getting into the world of academics, and of course at that time he was succeeded by Teboho Masire. And after the world of academics, he then got into the world of diplomacy. Now he has decided the star rather has shone enough, and he has decided to grace us and bid farewell to a beautiful nation that is Zimbabwe, as he also bids farewell to his illustrious career that span across various disciplines, of course, on this beautiful planet. Ambassador, welcome to Diplomatic Passport.
Thank you very much.
Let's talk about those budding years. Before we talk about your life here in Zimbabwe, before we talk about you closing the door and heading wherever it is you want to head to for your retirement, tell us about you and the army. What age were you? What drove you to say, you know what, I want to get into the army?
Basically, the army was a new career institution in Botswana, and many of us were curious. However, were very few university graduates going into the Defence Force. Were only 3 of us who joined the Defence Force at that time in 1978. But I'm happy to report that at the time when I left in 2006, there were over 300 university graduates in the Botswana Defence Force. And
the interesting story there is you are a shining light in that institution, because you made a deliberate effort to make sure that people got, university training.
Yes, it was when we looked at it and the challenges and the kind of manpower we would need and the technology and the other administrative issues that are required in the Defence Force, we felt that we needed to have the intellectual capacity to be able to deal with that. But I must also add that when I went to the Defence Force, one of the things that attracted me was flying. And I started in flying. But unfortunately, the way I landed the aircraft worried instructors, so they quickly chucked me out of the flying division to the other side of the military.
So remind me not to fly with you when you're deciding in your retirement to probably get onto a little aircraft and fly around.
Oh, they will not allow me in the cockpit, I can assure you.
But certainly you've also had a beautiful career in academics. Tell us about how you decided when you thought after 30 or so years in the army you were ready to move out. What made you think, I think the time is right to have a career change?
What happened during my career in the military was that I used certain opportunities to upgrade myself. For example, when we attended a school, called the school in America, called Commander Staff College, there were opportunities for U.S. military officers to do their masters. I also got into that program. So by the time I finished the Staff College, I also finished the masters in public administration. But back in Botswana, when I was now Deputy Chief of Defence Force, the University of Botswana had a program where you could do your MBA in 3 years. You every week on Wednesday you go for 6 to 9, 3 hours. So I jumped on that one again. So I did my second masters. But the institutions, schools, they used to invite me to come and give a lecture, to talk to students. So that brought me closer and closer to the academic community.
Well, I certainly sense that craving for education. And of course, we're living in a new normal where we are worried about the pedigree of our students, and we haven't had them go to college for the greater part of the year. And if they feel like they're losing it and they lose that love for lectures, as a former lecturer and as somebody who's absolutely passionate about education, what would you say to the current crop of students who are feeling dismayed in the wake of coronavirus, to encourage them to perhaps stay on the course?
I think we have to understand that there are those occasions when there's an interaction between a lecturer and the students. But the bulk of the work is done by you in the library, at home, or in the office. So this now becomes imperative where we are, that more reading and more reading should be undertaken. With the kind of technology we have nowadays, the students should really be occupied There should be no student who is sitting idle without doing anything. It should really be maybe a question of, say, in the rural areas where the technology is still behind. But I would say it is time to read and read and read.
Absolutely spoken like a true lecturer. Now, tell me about that time, moving into the world of lecturing. We had you at Stellenbosch, amongst other institutions. Tell me, when you left on October 1st, 2006, where did you go immediately, and where did your life in academics take you? What institutions?
I used to have a relationship with Wits University. While I was in Defence Force, when they would ask me to come and lecture for a week or 2 weeks, or to come and present to students. Now that created a relationship. So when I was now on my 8th year as commander of the Defence Force, I was now left with only 3 years to go. Then I was approached. Somebody asked, "Would you want to come and lecture?" I said, yes. They had a program at WITS which was looking at defense and security. A program that wanted to look at the parliamentary oversight committees, how they relate to the defense forces and other security sectors. So they felt that I would be maybe familiar, since I'm familiar with the ground, it would be easier for me to approach the commanders, the police commissioners, and say to them, please, can you bring students here? Please, the Oversight Committee on Defense and Security would like to meet you guys. So this is how I gravitated towards the academia.
And how was your initial period, moving from a commander, no less, of the Botswana Defence Forces to a lecturer? Because I'm thinking, if I were a lay person, of course, a lot of the bulk of the people will be coming from military institutions, but there are a lot of lay people who also want to graduate, to attend these. And I'm thinking, sitting in front of the immediate former commander of the Botswana Defence Forces, that must be intimidating for them, and it must be intimidating for you too, going from life in the army to civilian life in academics.
The academic atmosphere is completely different. On campus, I don't think they really care where you come from. They care about the professors, the PhDs, those are the people they care with. It was more of a culture shock for me at the university, because in the military I was surrounded by officers. If I wanted something, I only have to look that direction or that direction, it was brought. If I wanted something downloaded for me, it was brought. I didn't have to carry a bag. All that I did was to carry my stick of honor. At the university is different. Nobody carries your bag. So I found myself carrying this bag to class, which was unfamiliar. Then, of course, there's also communicating through the computers, communicating through where meetings will be announced on the internet. Now, I was not used to that. So several times, my colleagues, the other lecturers, would be in a meeting and say, call me, General, where are you? I said, what do you mean where I am? They said, we're in a meeting here. I said, but when was this meeting decided? They said, you didn't check your mail? What mail? So that was the adjustment that I had to go through.
Well, to tell you how honored I am to have you, I'm honored, and I'm also intrigued by your humility, but you're probably the most intimidating guest I've had, former commander of the Defence Forces, and of course giving us these stories that you're giving us is invaluable. Now let's move to you becoming a diplomat, of course, from the army to academics, and finally diplomacy. How did that happen? How did you land in the world of being a diplomat?
It happened during General Khama's time. If you may recall, in the Defence Force, I was his deputy. When he went into politics, it meant that I went up as now the new Chief of Defence Force. So we had that relationship over the years. But at a certain point, there was a requirement for an ambassador in Nigeria. And at that time, I was now doing part-time lecturing at university. So through one of our discussions, he felt that I could do well to go to Nigeria. Then he asked me, then I said, well, say, I'm here to serve. And then that's how I went to Nigeria.
And how did you find life there? You adjusted by carrying your own bags when you went to university, and now you're again in the world of diplomacy. You're in the world of governance, as it were. What was there another culture shock? Was it another new learning curve, or it was inherently not too different from perhaps life in the army?
Yes. Now, in the diplomacy, there was a much more correlation to the army in the sense that the ambassador is called His Excellency. Your Excellency, you know, you've got the staff, you've got the drivers, you've got, you know, paying attention to you. The drivers open the doors for you, you know. In a way, that kind of respect that you are given, attention you are given, is more or more similar to the military. But of course, it is also you fly a flag, and then that all the time starts to remind you that there is a responsibility here that I really must wake up to.
Absolutely. Well, if you're just joining us, so we're going to be getting more and more nuggets as we go deeper into, of course, what the general here looks back at and his achievements in the world of diplomacy. But if you're just joining us and you don't know where you've landed, well, this is the program that you're watching. Yes, indeed, you are on Diplomatic Passport. Now, Ambassador, going to Nigeria and the relationship, of course, between Botswana and Nigeria, what are the key things, the key moments? What was your relationship like country to country, and what responsibilities did you find to be very taxing or very demanding when you went into the world of diplomacy, especially between Botswana and Nigeria?
In Nigeria, it was not very difficult for me to adjust there. If we rewind back, when Botswana got independence, if you look at the diplomatic missions that opened there, you'll find that CD1 being Britain, CD2 America, CD3 Zambia, and CD4 Nigeria. These two embassies, Nigeria and Zambia, did a lot of facilitation of our own brothers and sisters who were trying to get away from the oppressive systems that they were living under. So we always looked at Nigeria as that country that, even though in West Africa, had declared itself to be part of the frontline states. So when I went to Nigeria, the other thing about Nigeria was that most of our students at the University of Botswana who were to do this, were to do medicine and engineering, which at that time the faculties did not exist in our institution, had to go to Nigeria. So we found that when people were at the University of Botswana, we were always looking forward to those who would be going to Nigeria. So Nigeria was like home, and I was well received, with very kind people, hardworking people.
And then you found yourself in yet another frontline state in 2017 when you were posted to your second country, which is Zimbabwe, no less. How was that experience coming to Zimbabwe, presenting your credentials?
Zimbabwe is more different for me because it's home. This is a country where I have relatives. This is a country where I have schoolmates, people that we went together at the University of Botswana. This is a country where I have comrades in the Defense Force. That especially in the Defense Force, I've worked very closely with many Zimbabwean officers. I've been in and out of Zimbabwe so many times.
And of course, you were also a transitional ambassador, which was also a very unique experience that you had when, as a nation, there was a transition from the First to the Second Republic, and you leave again today, looking back at that story, at the story of Zimbabwe over the past couple of years, and your part as Botswana. What do you look back at the memories of that, your tenure, thinking, and looking forward? What are your dreams, hopes, and aspirations for Zimbabwe?
Zimbabwe, for me as a Botswana, where we have got such close cultural and historical ties. For example, if I were to look at the border between Zimbabwe and Botswana, from Zambezi to Limpopo, just as the national anthem of Zimbabwe says, Kuva Zambezi Kusika Limpopo. That anthem portion describes the relationship between Zimbabwe and Botswana, captured and capsuled in the border. 894 kilometers of border, which were demarcated in the United Kingdom many years before. But this border was on a map, drawn on a map. But what actually does it mean on the ground? There was no asking, consultation. The border was a line that went through people, families, through. One family is this side, the brothers that side, one family is this side, brothers that side. So the reality of the relationship between Botswana and Zimbabwe is about family, culture, language. If, for example, I could give you the relationship sometimes that between our people. In Shona, I would say, Yatsika dope, yam. Yatsika dope, yam. But there is in Botswana, the Kalangas would change one word. Yatsamba dope. One word, Yatsamba dope, yam. What does that tell you? It tells you at one portion of time we were one. So one of the, for me, the challenges when I was here, the highlights was that I am back with the people I'm from. So I'm part of Zimbabwe.
Absolutely. And we're proud that you all made time to come and talk to us, because you were absolutely not too sure about your day-to-day, because before you came here, there's a gentleman you went to meet, and who was that, perhaps for the benefit of our viewers?
I went to meet the Commander-in-Chief of Zimbabwe Armed Forces, the President of Zimbabwe, Edison Ndambuzo Mnangagwa. I went to see the head of state. It can go higher than that. I went to see the president.
Absolutely, and we are also privileged that even after the president, you then paid a call on diplomatic passport to bid farewell to the people of Zimbabwe. And perhaps finally, when we walk into this twilight at 66, some would be thinking you're still ripe to go to another country, but you are planning on a different trajectory, and probably going into the fourth republic of your life. Your first republic was the army. You went to academia, you went to diplomacy. You're going somewhere else. Where are you going?
I'm going to an area which we tend to underestimate career-wise. I'm going into farming. If you look today at the employment situation in our countries, most African countries, there are no jobs for our kids. The university graduates are working in the streets. But we overlook farming because we have not given it the respect it requires. If you look at farming today and what it can offer to our countries, and the value addition that it can also add up to, I want to go to Maung, which is my village in the Kwavango Delta. I'm going to sit down a small holding and try to produce cabbages, try to produce vegetables, and produce poultry. People eat every day, 3 times a day some. Nobody can stay 3 days without eating. So I think if for example, Zimbabwe is named was the breadbasket of Africa, in which I think the potential with its resources, water resources, it can still happen. It means we now need to go to the development agenda of Africa must be mirrored in the agriculture sector.
Absolutely. And you're also then going to meet President Masisi. Obviously, you've finished your tour of duty. What report are you going to give him about your brothers and sisters in your second home in Zimbabwe? How are you going to sum up your life in diplomacy and, of course, your life here in Zimbabwe?
What I'm going to tell my president is how the Zimbabweans and Botswana love each other. The relationship between Botswana and Zimbabwe has deepened. It has strengthened. How can we tell that? We see increased interaction, trade. We see companies from Zimbabwe going to Botswana, companies in Zimbabwe coming here. We see companies winning tenders in Botswana. We see companies also coming this side. What does that reflect? It reflects that Botswana and Zimbabwe are comfortable with each other. That is why the Africa Border Program, the African Union Border Program, I want to support, which says borders must be used to bring countries together. For example, if there's a clinic on the Zimbabwean side of the border and on the Botswana side there's no clinic, when those people on the other side are sick, they should feel free to cross the border into Zimbabwe to go to the clinic. So this is the kind of the dream, this is the kind of future that I think we as Africans, we must try to pursue and achieve.
Absolutely. And I do know some people may think you're probably flying out on the 29th or the 30th, but you did tell me you're not going to fly back home, are you? What are you going to do?
I'm driving. I'm driving these beautiful Zimbabwean roads. I'll be driving from here to Plumtree, get my my passport stamped at Plumtree, then go to Francistown. Remember Francistown? That's where I went to college, Matter's Bay.
Yes.
Spend a night or two in Francistown, see friends and relatives. Then after that, go west, straight west. In the afternoon, the sun will be shining in Winston, so you don't want to drive at that time. Go straight to Maung. Now, Maung is where the Okavango Delta comes into Botswana. The Maung is where also you find the highest number of elephants. So, if I fly, I won't see my relatives and friends in Francistown. If I fly, I will miss the Makarkari pen. If I fly, I won't see those elephants along the way.
Well, you also told me earlier that you've got Zimbabweans on your small holding who you're working with to make sure that you produce and start commercializing. Perhaps we'll say, go and say hello to them for us in this age of COVID. Some may not have come home. And as you said, these borders are bringing us together, and certainly we shall hope to be seeing more of you. And following up on your life, you did say you want Diplomatic Passport to follow you and come to Botswana when we can, and it's an offer that, of course, I am accepting.
Yes. There's a lot of things that we are doing, Botswana are doing together with Zimbabwe. The Zimbabweans that are on my place in my small molding, we've been together sometime. We do things together. They add value to my life. And I think this is where we need to put our hands together. Synergy. Let us use that synergy to improve our lives, to add value to our lives. I appreciate and thank so much those Zimbabweans that are with us, those Zimbabweans that are working with us, those Zimbabweans that are helping us move forward.
Absolutely, and we would like to thank you so much for joining us here on Diplomatic Passport. And the next time we meet, we shall be on the small holding farm in Maung. Thank you so much for joining me, Ambassador.
Thank you so much.
Well, of course, that has been the outgoing Botswana Ambassador to Zimbabwe, Louis Matshwenyeho. Fisher, who is now going to be driving into the sunset, starting a new life as he retires on his small holding in Botswana, of course, which he says is a home away from home for us, because before the borders we were one. And of course, throughout this year, we have been one, us, we and you. And certainly we wish you all the best in the festive season. Today is Christmas Eve. Tomorrow is Christmas Day. Enjoy the day. Enjoy the rest of the year. It's been a very tough year, but we got through it. We endured the year, and we hope for the best going forward into 2021. But now, from me, Robert Mkondiwa, from Tapiwa, my TD, Milton Sasa, the entire team, Langton, of course, it's been a great year. Thank you so much for joining us here on Diplomatic Passport. Wishing you all the best, all our love. Goodbye, good night, and until next year, this Diplomatic Passport has been stamped for 2020.